Don't let Valvrave's charmingly awkward romance, fan service, and high school drama fool you. Beneath all the waifus, politics, and stylized mecha violence beats the actual heart of the story. The intense, complicated, but rock-solid relationship between two guys who couldn't be more different. Meet Tokishima Haruto, a pacifist cinnamon roll who still always nuts up to heed the hero's call to action. And Ereroku, a cold-blooded, ruthless soldier whose tactical genius helps push Haruto to be all he can be, even if it kills him. And this is the not-so-hidden romantic subtext of Kakumeki VALVRAVE. Eroya fixates on Haruto from the get-go. Haruto tends to go out of his way to avoid conflict, but the usually dispassionate Eroya gets so triggered by Haruto's simple statement that he breaks protocol mid-mission to go confront him.
お前はハムエッグの君も愛した女もナイフで半分に切り分けるのか。幸せは半分こになんてできないなら戦うしかない。
They literally just met. They're off to a rocky start already, but their clashing ideologies eventually is what helps Haruto overcome his mental roadblocks to save the day.
敵も取れずに死ぬ。譲れないなら戦うしかない。譲れない。だから
Don't get me wrong, their bond goes through some serious growing pains. But after Eroya realizes Haruto's death proof, he decides to make Haruto his right hand.
君が答え。俺と契約しろ、時島ハルト。
A dynamic he and another soldier boy, Adorai, once hoped to share, but they're both power bottoms, so it never would have worked. You get a hint of how quickly Eroya becomes possessive of Haruto in episode 4. Even after giving him hell and technically killing him, Eroya demands Haruto enter the first of many blood pacts with him.
僕を殺したくせに。それでもお前は俺を選ぶしかない。その時はサインを出せ。俺が救ってやる。
Haruto can pilot a VALVRAVE, a highly coveted death machine because of course, and this makes him the perfect warhorse to help Eroya overthrow a fascist space cult. In exchange, Haruto will have full access to Eroya's one-man army strategy skills. The whole "I will save you" thing always sets off my Fujo senses. Eroya agrees to save all of the things that are important to Haruto to sweeten the deal, even his woman, Shoko, like she's some sort of pet.
時島ハルト、お前は俺を選ぶ。
That really stuck out for me. Not "you'll say yes" or "you'll see that I'm right" or even "you'll accept my way of doing things." You'll choose me. Eroya equates Haruto choosing to prioritize his aggressive coup d'etat to Haruto choosing him. But Shoko rushes in with a better, more non-violent plan, winning the heart of the masses and even flashes Haruto his choose me sign. Ending Eroya's whole career.
久しぶりだ。笑ったのは。
After Haruto saves the day in episode 1 and hops out of the VALVRAVE, Eroya is there waiting for him. He intends to steal the mech as per his mission, and actually lays a double tap on Haruto. But after becoming a VALVRAVE pirate, Haruto is no longer human. His murder attempt actually triggers Haruto's vampirism. So after he pops his blood cherry, he develops a thirst that can't be quenched. Probably already know how often sex has been tied to vampirism in pop culture. Craving blood is analogous to sexual desire, biting is giving into temptation, being bitten feels amazeballs. Vampires are DTF. You get the idea. Since this bloodletting is just a PG-13 stand-in for sex, it typically takes place between a man and a woman because heteronormativity. So on the occasion that happens between two men, nobody can play the no homo card. BL and vampirism have gone hand in hand many times, and those are just the ones that have gotten anime adaptations. So it's no surprise that vampirism in VALVRAVE has sexual overtones. You see Haruto fly into a blood frenzy every so often, but he only ever tries to drink from men, mainly sinking his fangs into Eroya, whom he's bitten about 4 times on screen. By season 2, the boys make yet another pact when Haruto vows to drink from Eroya exclusively, as if that hadn't already been the case. This plot point may have been too nakedly gay for the anime to abide, because it doesn't come up again until the final episode. And keep in mind, Haruto only needs to bite skin for this to work. He could buy Idol Elf somewhere a little less intimate, but he goes for the neck every single time. Haruto and Idol Elf are the MVPs of this anime. Their reliance on each other and their ever-deepening bond enables massive chunks of the plot, a fact the opening and ending credits for both seasons do absolutely nothing to hide. Bloody hickeys aside, most of their interactions seem oddly sexual. It's the little things, really. Haruto is a conflict-averse pacifist, but he gets all heated and loud and is constantly in Elf's face. He doesn't do this to anyone else in the show, let alone this often. If he'd stared at Elf any harder, he'd burst into flames. I've joked about this before with other anime. There's something to be said for this excessive physical closeness. Whether they're in battle, running for their lives, discussing strategy, or squabbling, it's hard to tell with them, really. Making solemn vows, or even just idle conversation, you could cut the tension with a knife. Even when Elf threatens to kill him, it seems more like he's trying to dominate him. His methods aren't quick and methodical like always, it's slow and looks more like kinky knife play. I'm sure he was just waiting for Haruto to change his mind about dying, but that doesn't change how this scene looks in and out of context. This has to be deliberate, as it leads directly to the drink only from you blood pact scene. Also, as I'm sure you noticed, LOF has resting bitch face, but with Haruto he's surprisingly expressive. Haruto is one of the precious few LOF actually smiles at. Meanwhile, LOF throws some serious stank face at Shoko, her being his rival for Haruto after all. He was planning to shoot her in this scene. She was in the way, in more ways than one. The three hetero relationships set up in the anime never really go anywhere. Well, nowhere good. Shoko, the Genki childhood friend, is the clear frontrunner in Haruto's harem. When the anime gives them some actual screen time together, they get along quite well. Just before disaster strikes in episode 1, Haruto had planned to confess to her. There's even a fake-out death scene that prompts him to get into the robot to avenge her. Even after things calm down, and they all become emancipated teens free to do whatever they want, no progress is made. War breaks out, they're squabbling about something dumb and petty. It's Thursday, Shoko becomes prime minister and seems out of his league now. There's always an excuse. Since this is wartime and they could die tomorrow, Haruto is advised that the constant threat of death is even more reason to confess and finally hit that. But he still doesn't. Technically, Haruto gives up on Shoko romantically as early as episode 2. Being a Valvrave pilot has left him altered and inhuman. He might be a hero in the eyes of the public, but now he sees himself as a monster, and not allowed feelings. So the plot opens up an opportunity for Saki, their Bishoujo actress and pop idol classmate, to win Haruto over. It was another rocky start, and Haruto was weirdly cold to her. They do eventually start to bond over their mutual loneliness. Like Haruto, Saki is a bit of an outsider and a new Valvrave pilot herself. Saki does seem to like Haruto, but she likes the idea of using his fame to regain her own just as much. Saki and Haruto form a short-lived contract of their own of sorts to keep these Valvraves a secret between the two of them. This partner in crime dynamic seems like the hetero ship this anime needs. At first. Haruto seems to do things for her out of guilt or pity instead of genuine affection. And Saki just strong-arms him into anything resembling romance. At the end of the day, she's very much using him.
How about you bite me, bitch?
Haruto only proposes to her after her manipulative, loneliest girl speech. And after he rapes her in the woods at the literal behest of his Valvrave. Yes, really. Other than proving my point about sex and vampirism, I don't really get what writers are trying to say with this scene. This isn't something Haruto wanted or would even do at gunpoint. In his crazed state, he would have done this to anyone. Saki eventually laying back and taking one for the team does not make this sex. Haruto's even traumatized by anything that reminds him of the assault afterwards. So why make this cinnamon roll do something so grotesque? I brought this up before and will again in a future video, but a sexually ambiguous MC randomly assaulting women when everything about his personality says he'd never do that is a super unfortunate side effect of what could be called straight washing. Basically, when a male MC makes exaggerated and abnormal shows of masculinity or interest in the opposite sex in order to reaffirm his heterosexuality. This is the only time in the entire series Haruto is shown trying to drink from a woman. In fact, the only time Haruto is shown physically making a move on a girl at all is when he's been possessed by Saki, who hits on Takagi in his body. This is something he'd never have been confident enough or suave enough to do on his own. We already know Haruto's got a condition. There's no narrative need for the kabedon, the elevator, or the rape scene to exist, other than to be able to point to it later and say, see, he goes after women too. Objection! So after all that straight male posturing, Saki turns him down. But there's still the possibility of friends with benefits. Them sleeping together would actually have solved the biggest problem of being a VALVRAVE pilot, but Haruto still pushes her away. Their entire romantic subplot is pretty much laid to rest at the beginning of Season 2. Honestly, that's probably for the best. The hetero relationships in this show are all failed attempts. Even the side character ships don't sail. Murderbot Edo Elf gets a waifu subplot of his own with Rizero, a pink-haired immortal waifu from his childhood. I literally forgot all about her until I re-watched the series to make this video. We learn from brief flashbacks why Edo Elf fixated on her. Wow, that sounds familiar. This subplot has so little time to build up, the audience has to flat out be told and not shown that he loves her. Apparently everything he's done for the past 10 years was to save a girl he barely knows. Well, I've got nothing to add. Lizelot's here and gone in a flash when she sacrifices herself so that Edo Elf & Co. can escape. So again, a main character ship doesn't sail. I'm sad that he's sad, but the big emotional payoff just isn't there. Lizelot only ever felt like a plot device, and she gave me going through the motions vibes the entire time. The only part of the blink and you'll miss it ship that seemed legit was how alike she and Haruto actually were. The writers went out of their way to give Edo Elf a love interest, but her inclusion just made them seem more smitten with each other. Haruto ends up relying very heavily on Edo Elf, not just for his physical needs, but on the battlefield as well. Edo Elf's tactical brilliance makes missions go so smoothly that Haruto, I mean the team, realizes how much he, I mean they, need him. By episode 8, their new floating teen colony is in a real bind. Haruto realizes success and survival will only be possible with their combined strength. Even after everything that's happened, Haruto has complete faith in him, and his trust is rewarded when they save everyone in the colony together without a single loss of life. Haruto even swings by to scoop Edo Elf and take him home. In Season 2, they learned that piloting the VALVRAVE is actually taking a bigger toll on Haruto than he previously thought. Edo Elf, showing some rare compassion, tries to lessen Haruto's load by attempting to pilot the VALVRAVE himself, even though he knows it could kill him too. Edo Elf even takes Haruto off missions when he realizes he's rightfully too afraid to pilot it anymore. Knowing he's like a candle being burned at both ends, they make another vow to each other to do all they can while they can.
釣り切れたって構わない。この体が朽ちるその前に。
The anime begins this brutal downward spiral after Lieselot dies. Edoel falls into a depression and coulda woulda shouldas himself for days. Haruto is the only person to visit him, and he reminds him that he's helped him out of tough scrapes when he was low too, and that he'll always be there waiting for him to bounce back. Haruto also stops calling Edoel Aitsu, or that guy. It's distant, informal, and implies contempt. But by season 2 he switches to the more affectionate Kare, meaning him, he, and boyfriend. I'm just gonna let that hang in the air. But their bond is tested in episode 9 and 10 when it's leaked to the public that the students and the main cast are all products of very weird science. Their mortality will be televised, and it leads to a colony-wide massacre and witch hunt. Haruto and the other pilots are forced to take the fall so that the non-immortal students can be spared. Cast out and betrayed, Haruto and Edoel find themselves stranded on the moon. With nothing left to lose, they decide to have a heart-to-heart. Dudes, am I right? When they finally get some of that UST out of their systems and the fighting ends, they get even closer than before, deciding to keep no secrets and drop all pretense.
隠し事をして痛い目にあったからね。エレルフ。
なんだ。
君はもう僕に隠したることはない。
ある。
僕もだ。
If Haruto's emotional character arc with Shoko was familiarity to inferiority, and with Saki was concern to guilt and obligation, then with Edoel it was anger to admiration and comfort. Haruto's relationship with the girls gets worse and worse, while things with Edoel get better. They have an actual partnership. They share the load equally and hide nothing from one another. They make a new vow to hold on to their lives and to make the world a place where they both can live in peace.
エレルフ、一緒に。
ああ。だからまだ死ねない。
Plans settled, the boys see to their individual parts of the Haruto Requiem, I mean the final mission. But even with the best laid plans, things don't go perfectly. Whenever things go south and Haruto gets stressed, he screams for Edoel. In the final episodes, Haruto's burning through his memories in exchange for power, a la the Neverending Story too. So in a last-ditch effort to spare Haruto from memory loss and death, Edoel has one last plan.
だから俺も一緒に戦う。だから俺を使え。
そうか、ジャックを。
奴に戦闘技術を叩き込まれた俺の体とお前の呪いで
僕ら二人で。
In the end, the bad guy gets stomped and they win the day. But the price of victory is steep.
ハルト。
俺と契約したことも好きで殴り合ったこともお前は俺と
This ending always had me wondering, why did Haruto die? The whole point of the body hijack and the original plan to feed on Edoel regularly was to prevent his runes from being eaten up. Haruto's actual body was benched for the final battle. So other than for the sake of a beautiful Spartan death, there's no reason Haruto should have died here. I've touched on this in my Shining Hearts video, but there's a BL trope where low-key gay characters are often depicted falling into comas or dying just before progress with the heroine could be made. War and mecha anime tend to make this trope even more obvious. With the fighting over and no more guns in the valley, there's usually not much stopping the ships from sailing, and there's almost always a wedding. VALVRAVE had been setting up Haruto with Shoko on and off for 2 seasons, Haruto himself wondering when they were finally going to catch a break. After all this death and fighting, if anyone has earned a happy ending, it's Haruto. So you'd think the anime would want to have paid off either of their romantic subplots off in some meaningful way, but it never does. Not only does Haruto not survive to make up with Shoko and awkwardly date or marry her, in the end Edoel is the only person he remembers, and Haruto dies in his arms, the smile on his face.